the horizontal plane, or we can call it gravity minimized. So if we tested shoulder flexion in the sitting position, and we want to take away the effects of gravity, we would lay the patient in side lying. So I'm going to be laid that way. Okay, so now the shoulder flexors are no longer acting against gravity and lifting perpendicular to the floor. They're going to be working horizontal to the floor. Yep. So you would support the arm completely so that she doesn't have to lift the weight of the arm. She just has to do the motion itself and make sure that those muscles are activating in the anterior shoulder. So if she can go through full range of motion, and I'm not helping her, I'm just supporting her arm. So she's doing the active motion, I'm just providing the support. If she goes through full range, she gets a 2. Okay, so two grades start in the gravity minimized position. If she can only go through partial range, so say she only comes up to here, and you feel the muscle activating, that's a 2 minus. So partial range of motion and gravity minimized, 2 minus. And then if she is unable to move the arm at all, but you palpate the anterior deltoid, and you feel a palpable contraction occur, that would be your 1. And a 0 is that you don't feel any contraction at all. Okay.
For this, are you moving her arm or is she?
No, so you're
with her?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically you're just following what she's doing and you're giving her support. Another way to do this test, if you had it, there are some clinics that have like a sliding board that you put in front of the patient, and so they would just rest their arm on it, and you'd put a towel so it decreases friction, and she would be moving herself. So the only reason for you supporting it is because we don't have those slide boards, but that is another option for gravity minimized.
Can you do it when she's actually sitting up and actually have a hand on the clit and have a towel there and go in that direction, or no?
So if you're doing for
Sorry for, so you're checking for flexion, right? Just now?
so yes, so we're doing flexion.
So no, you can only do it for horizontal abduction.
Right, so that would be horizontal adduction, which is one of the gravity minimized positions for pec major. So yes, that would be for pec major, and we'll get to that in just a second. So for extension, same position for gravity minimized, supporting the arm, asking her to bring her arm back behind her. I'm just supporting it and following her. If she goes through full range, that's her 2. If she's only able to go through partial range, so say maybe to here, and then she fatigues, that would be your 2 minus. Palpate the posterior deltoid or the lat. So you can palpate any of the muscles that would do that action. So you don't have to palpate every single one, just pick one muscle that does the action to palpate. And if you feel a contraction, she gets the 1, and if there's no contraction, 0. Okay. So that's for flexion extension.
For the shoulder extension, do you also need to have her elbow bend?
Yes,
Okay.
you would want to keep her elbow slightly bent, and that would be why.
Biceps passive.
Yeah, biceps being passively insufficient. Yep. So yes, you should have the elbow slightly bent. All right, so that's flexion extension. Let's also do abduction, and then we'll do internal and external rotation, and then we'll practice it together. So for abduction, we test against gravity in sitting, right? Because then the deltoid and the supraspinatus have to work against gravity to lift the arm perpendicular to the floor. So now, if she lays on her back, this would be the gravity minimized position. You're gonna scooch towards me, and we'll test this side. So if she keeps her arm rested by the side, you would certainly want a towel underneath her arm. So can you borrow some of this towel? So the towel just minimizes friction. Okay, and then you're just going to ask her to raise her arm up overhead. So go ahead and, oh, thanks. Oops, sorry, not that way. So we're gonna go out to the side and up overhead. So this isn't the best table because we lose contact with the towel, but let's just go to here for now and then slide it back down. So basically she's sliding in the horizontal plane, right? So the deltoid no longer is acting against gravity. and she's able to complete the full range of motion, she gets that 2. If, say, she only is able to go halfway, she would get a 2 minus. And then for palpating, you'd be palpating the deltoid and seeing if she can come, or if she can contract. Sorry, no movement, contraction would be your 1. Great. And no movement, no contraction is 0. Okay, and then flip onto your stomach and we'll do shoulder internal, external rotation. Okay, so it's the same position for internal, external rotation in terms of being prone. Why don't you scooch to all the way to the right side of the table. So we know we test internal and external rotation in this position. To minimize the effect of gravity, we're going to let her arm hang down so that she no longer has to lift the weight of the upper extremity against gravity. So she hangs this arm down so that we minimize the weight of the limb, and we ask her to turn her palm out. Okay, so that would be testing for external rotation, and you can palpate the teres minor. Yep.
How would you account for maybe getting a couple extra degrees of external rotation that they might be like supinating?
Very good question. So that's a common compensation that happens. So that's where your palpation skills come in. So if you see, oh, they're going into supination here, but you're not feeling that muscle contract up at the shoulder, then you know that they're not really using the correct muscles. And so you can try to instruct them and say, try to move from here and see if you feel a contraction in the shoulder muscles. But if not, and they're still just supinating the forearm, that would be a 0. Yep, good question. And then for internal rotation, you'd be checking subscap. So one comment from me yesterday is palpation. A few people had difficulty with palpating subscap. You do need to make sure that you're not just on the lateral border, but you need to go on the inside to the anterior portion of the scapula when you palpate subscap. Right? So then you would instruct her, go ahead and turn your hand in. Yep, good. And then you're palpating to see if that muscle contracts. And then go ahead and relax. So if she goes through partial range, that would be your 2 minus. And then if you just palpate the muscle contracting with no movement, that's your 1. All right. So is that starting to make a little bit more sense with gravity minimized? Okay. So let's go ahead and just practice those quick